But trust me when I say this, you will not like this joke, or you will really like this joke. I promise you that's true. Here we go. What's the first thing when anyone hears time travel? They're like, ooh, if I could ever travel in time, I'll go back in time and I'll kill Adolf Hitler when he was a baby. You know what I mean? So you can stop all that stuff from happening. But I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of you don't have that in you. It's not that easy to go back and kill a little adorable goo goo gaga. Like, you just can't make yourself do it. That's why if we ever do invent a time machine, first person in the time machine better be like a super liberal feminist, because you know she'll kill a baby. Did I not deliver the promise? I delivered the promise.
Good evening, everybody. That's not enough light. No, hold on 1 second. That's not good. I don't like that. 1 second. We're doing this again. Oh, so much better. So much better. So much better. Yeah, that is better. All right. I think, and a 1 and a 2. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. I hope that your day has been going swimmingly well. Mine has been frantic as like a March hare, whatever that means. That doesn't really mean anything, but I think you got the point anyway. In that I have been running and running and running. At one point, I referred to myself as Good Logic's ferry service because I got kids around now. I got kids around tonight. I'm not used to that. I got kids around and they need ferrying. Ferrying needs to be done. So, and I got work, like lawyer work, like someone decided, Joe, you need to be a lawyer again. So I've been lawyering and trying to keep up with the news and trying to keep up with everything that's going on. And there's so much freaking going on. I was talking to Jim today. I was like, hey, Jim, what's going on in the world? And he's telling me something. He's like, oh, I got to cover that. And he tells me the next thing. And he's like, oh, I got to cover that. And then he tells me another thing. I'm like, oh, I got to cover that. And it was like one thing after another. Like, seriously, like literally tell me, not one thing after another, Jim. One, like, was there anything I said no
things.
to?
We don't have enough time for all the stories. There's so many stories.
I don't have enough time. I didn't even like mention to him. I didn't really talk to him. He threw out like links they sent to me, stuff about Greenland that I really want to talk about, and that's like number 7 on the list. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't know how we're gonna try to do it. Plus, I'm up against deadline because I got like a locals after party that I'm supposed to be starting at 12:45 a.m. And you guys know I am never ever late, so I can't get late there. The locals after party is as per request of one of my subscribers who was like, there's this F. Murray Abraham movie called Esther. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on it. And I used to watch movies. I don't know if you know this, Jim. I used to watch movies with my audience and be like, this is right, that is totally wrong, this part's right, this is right. And I would basically break it down when they're historical movies about like Jewish events in Jewish history. So most of you know the story of Esther. Most of you heard of F. Murray Abraham, who's a brilliant actor. And I started watching the first
Esther,
10 minutes
the one that was married to Xerxes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, not just married, but married. Like,
well, didn't he have like like multiple wives or something?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that he had multiple wives. Maybe he probably had many concubines.
Okay.
Concubine, but she was like the queen. She was like considered a queen, not a mere concubine, which makes it sort of different. Like her son becomes king, like replacing Xerxes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my locals after party. What do I have in tonight's show? Well, there's all sorts of talk about the insurrection that's going on in Minnesota. Have you seen have you seen any of the insurrection footage, like about the craziness going on in Minnesota?
I've seen a little bit of it.
Okay. Yeah. I think we've all seen some of it. And we also have Tina Peters updates. I'm going to give you background as to what the story of Tina Peters is, who she is. You might know something about her. You heard about Tina Peters. You're going to see why she's such an important individual, and also updates with respect to her status as a political prisoner. And I've also got Tim Walz in the news, where this guy, Mr. Loser himself, lost again, yet again in court. So I want to break that down for you. I've got updates going on in Greenland. I've got bills that are passing in New Jersey and Colorado, which have real serious, interesting legal perspectives that I want to break down for you as well. That Jim was throwing this at me. I was like, oh, I really want to talk about that because that's an interesting thing as to whether or not that's constitutional. Speaking of kids, one of my newest to flock home just walked in the door. Hey. Yeah. So, that's basically what we got going on here. I also have a goal up there, our regular goal, which is 15 super chats of $10 or more. We hit that goal, and I will do a show on Saturday night. Boom. There you go. I'm going to do a Saturday night show. When's the last time you've seen that? You haven't seen that in a while. So I'll do a Saturday night show, even though Lady Logic's not here to crack the whip on me, because she's not. But I'll still come in here Saturday night and do a show if, in fact, we reach our goal, which is 15 super chats of $10 or more. So with that, let's get things kicking off. I apologize for my lateness. It's just I've been running fast. I've been running like a lunatic. Can we start? I'm thinking I want to start with Tina Peters.
Okay.
I think that's good, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you have? Were we able to come up with that background thing?
This is what I got for background. I put it in a private chat. Do you want me to pull it up, or
just tell me which one? Tina Peters is the one,
it's
right?
The factually one.
Factually one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's see
what right under Tina Peters.
All right. Let's see what you got here. Factually. All right. I guess this will work. This will work. Good job. I was asking him when he told me about Tina Peters. I was like, we're going to need to give the audience some background because a bunch of them probably heard the name Tina Peters but don't know very much about her. So I was like, see if you can find something that's not too crazy left-leaning that'll give us a little bit of a breakdown, so people feel like that we prep for this thing. So, Tina Peters, former Mesa County, Colorado clerk, orchestrated and facilitated an unauthorized breach. Unauthorized meaning that the powers that be in Colorado, an unauthorized breach of county election equipment and data in 2021 that prosecutors say enabled a pro-Trump conspiracy theorist to copy voting system software. So they're saying you led to this is the claim. And I said we need to know what exactly is their belief here with respect to what she did. So they say that you enabled a pro-Trump conspiracy theorist to copy voting system software. She was convicted on multiple state charges and sentenced to roughly 9 years in prison, a term now the subject of appellate scrutiny and political controversy. State prosecutors say they allege Peters deliberately allowed an unauthorized individual. So she basically opened the door there for someone to come in there and copy stuff. And that person was affiliated with election conspiracy circles to observe a trusted build software update in her office. So that was the ruse that she used. Is she's like, okay, so you're going to have a software, you're going to do a software update and make, no, I'm not a curious one. What is that? And make copies of the county's voting system hard drive using a security badge Peters said belonged to a county worker. Conduct described it as conduct that was described at trial as targeted effort to remove and preserve election system files outside of normal procedures. So from her perspective, she was looking to help with election integrity. She's not looking to corrupt the election outcome. She's merely looking to make sure that we have election integrity, at least in the state of Colorado. Peters was tried on multiple counts stemming from that 2021 incident and related conduct. Jurors convicted her on several counts, including tampering with voting equipment and other offenses tied to the data breach, resulting in a prison sentence of approximately 9 years imposed by a district court judge. At trial and in later court filings, prosecutors portrayed Peter's actions as part of a plot of deception to bring in outsiders who then improperly accessed county servers and copied 2020 election data, a narrative the state used to prove intentional misconduct rather than mere procedural error by an overzealous clerk. The misconduct here is not to harm the election, though, which is why this is such a crazy type of sentence. I understand you can't have people poking around your systems, even if they have the best of intentions. I can understand that. You know, I mean, she's saying she had the best of intentions. You and I may trust her on that or be inclined towards giving her the benefit of the doubt, given the nature of the objectives that she had. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to maintain your election system in a way that your belief is that these are secure, the idea of some clerk disregarding that and trying to let some backdoor person come in there is something that you can understand if a fair person, forget about leftists, and I understand that when in the state of Colorado, you might believe it's run by leftists, and you'd be true about that. But let's say it wasn't run by leftists. Let's say it was run by a fair person. Fair people were there. Let's pretend that for a moment. If you pretend that for a moment, you can understand them saying, "Look, I know you have all your theories, but I can't let you abusing your position here to let people in and start poking around in our system. That just isn't a way a state can function." So I get that. But you sort of have to mull over when you're trying to figure out how hard do we punish this woman if you're still looking to be fair. You're like, okay, was she looking to destroy our election? No, she thought she was going to be helping maintain integrity in our election. So in that sense, you would say it's not like she's looking to change results. She's not doing that. 9 years, very harsh. The sentencing judge delivered pointed criticisms of her conduct, calling into question the public danger posed by election misinformation. See, that doesn't make any sense. This, to me, is really effed up. Do you understand why I'm saying this is effed up?
It's going to come up later in the arguments.
This is really, really effed up because you're saying that the election misinformation is a factor. Why the hell is that a freaking factor? Why
That's
should
part of
that
the
be
problem
relevant?
in the appeal too, because that they brought up because they wouldn't let her present any evidence for why she was doing. You know what I mean? Like any evidence about the fraud or what she thought was the fraud and what she was trying to get a record of, and yet they used it against her. So it's like you can't say you can't present this. And so that's why the appeals thing sounds really good.
It's retarded because basically you sort of have to look into what the objective is here as to whether or not you would think that would be a relevant factor. Certainly for sentencing. He imposed a near-decade term that has drawn sharp debates. Some elected officials and clerks associations warn that commutation or pardon would embolden election denialism. Well, we need to be denying the results of the election because that was stupid and crazy. While others, including Governor Jared Polis, have publicly said they're considering the sentence's severity. Yeah, because the judge is freaking insane. Peter's lawyers have mounted a multi-front appeal. They contend the trial court improperly limited what she could present to the jury about intent, argue the sentence may have been unduly influenced by the judge's remarks, and even pressed an unconventional theory that presidential pardon power could reach state convictions, arguments a three-judge Colorado Court of Appeals has largely brushed aside, while noting a possible procedural flaw on one felony charge and signaling skepticism about tossing the convictions outright. Okay, so and Trump ended up issued a symbolic pardon because he can't pardon a state crime. He can pardon her for federal crimes, but these are state crimes, right?
Well, that's the thing. There's never been a court to rule on that.
If you ask me, I don't think he should have that power.
Right, but I mean that's something that they brought up, and they said it's never been ruled on whether or not the presidential pardon reaches to state crimes. It's never.
What I'm saying is, if I was sitting as a member, when they finally decide, when both parties agree, we need this guy sitting on the Supreme Court. When that day happens, and I'm unanimously declared Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, I will be of the opinion that a president cannot pardon a state crime. I think that he has plenty of power as it is. He shouldn't be having that power over state law. So, but he issued a symbolic pardon, and While Peter's defendants point to historical and tested examples to argue for federal pardon power over state matters, meanwhile, Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, Yimach Shema V'zichra, that's a Jewish phrase for may her name be blotted out, her name and memory be blotted out, and county clerks oppose effective clemency warning would validate attacks on election systems. No, not election systems, just the way you run your election, which sucks. While when the record shows and remains disputed, all right, so we're not going to, I think that her sentence here is just insane. 9 years is freaking insane. And her inability to present any information about why she did what she did is something that should shock the conscience. But it seems as if her appeal may be hitting some really good ground and the appellate court is really liking her system. Really liking her arguments that she has, because that little article there gives you a little breakdown as to what her story is. But the appellate court is not too impressed with the state on this case, and they have very sharp rebuke. But before I get there, that's for a Saturday show. Hey, Jim here. So that means locals chat will be respected. Thanks, Jim. Nice. The locals chat shall be respected. Respect the locals chat. I gotta check which chat I'm looking in. Am I looking in the right one?
RPSGECT.
I'm in the wrong locals thing. I gotta go to the right locals tab. Respect the locals chat. All right. And where he sent there, dogs. Joe, do you have a dog? The Canaan dog is Israel's national dog. Is it really Caleb Kanani? You made that up. Do you have one? Do they allow them in Jersey? I hear they're smarter than most Jersey school teachers, so they're considered a threat. Canaan is what the land of Israel was called before the Jews came in there. It was called the land of Canaan. And I'm wondering if you made that up, and I don't have time to check that out now. So I'm going to take that as truth for now. But no, I wish I had a dog. I really wish I had a dog. I love dogs. Dogs are awesome. And I'm glad
you feel that way.
It's my lot in life that I will never have a dog. Because like two or three of my kids that's not the same thing, and that's not the type of cow I would ever get. But it looks like a cow. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? I would bet anything that little plushie is a cow.
No, it's not a cow.
The plushie next to that dog is not a cow?
No, it's not a cow.
It totally is.
It's a special dog. It's a special plushie made exactly for her.
It's a cow. You just got a cow. Anyway, because of the situation that my children are deathly afraid of dogs, it's unlikely I will ever have one. But Hands One Pack says, remember Colorado Secretary of State released the public password for election system. She was never charged for this crime. Yeah. Like she's worried, and she's worried about maintaining the Colorado election system. That it's just insanity. If president cannot pardon state crimes, we need to address double jeopardy of being charged both by the state and federal for the same crime. Interesting question that Hands One Pack is bringing up. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think that's an interesting point. I don't think that's. I think it's an interesting point, irrespective of whether or not the president has presidential powers. Even if he doesn't have, even if he had pardon powers on both, why should someone be able to? I don't like that people are able to be charged with both. I think that there should be some sort of eating into it, even if some of the elements are overlapping. Meaning, if you're convicted on one level, that should count against whatever punishment you get on the other. In the second court system. Meaning, let's say there's a federal crime which says that if someone murders out of racism, that they call it a federal crime. So as opposed to just regular, your garden variety murder. So if they get convicted and let's assume that one of them has a 20-year charge and the other has a 25-year charge, I think that you can tack on for the larger one, let's say the racism crime, But I don't think you should be able to give him 45 years. I think that's insane. It says 20 for the goal, not 15. It does say 20 for the goal. I think when I put up the goal tonight, I was like, if I'm going to do a whole show, I'm doing a whole 2 hours, it should be 20. But I did say 15, so I will honor the 15. I meant to say 20.
15 will get you 20.
Nice. Nicely done. I will honor the 15. I said 15. I should have said 20 because when I put it up, I was like, for a 2 hour show, I really should make it 20. But I said 15 and I'll honor the 15. Anyhow, getting back to the update, what's going on with Tina Peters now? Why is this something that Joe is talking about today when she was convicted a while ago? And the answer to that question is because the appellate court in Colorado was giving a lambasting to the state that you and I are going to enjoy. So with that, this is the lambasting. This sad sap over here is a prosecutor for the state, and she's about to have her oversized gluteus get chewed out by the this panel of appellate court Colorado judges.
Is it your position that a person can still be convicted of a crime with which they were never charged and with which the jury was never instructed, as long as the evidence is sufficient?
So the state is taking the position that we never charged her with this crime. The jury never convicted her of this crime, but the evidence shows this is there. So yeah, let's just hit her. Let's just hit her with that crime because there was evidence to support it. And this judge is properly outraged. Do you really believe that to be the law? Look at her face. Look at this wretched face. Jim, why are they all so miserable all the time? I mean, look at her face.
You know, they say when you have a black soul, black heart, it affects your outward appearance.
This is a horrific face. This is a face that cracks glass. This is a face that just is just disgust, contempt. And this judge is looking at her like, what the hell is wrong? Do you really believe that you never charged him with a crime? Jury never charged, never convicted on that crime. That you can just now convict him of that crime? Convict Tina Peters of that crime? Because what happened was they'll walk you through it a little bit more during this clip.
Yes, I think that is what the case law indicates, that if it's just in this case, I'll just point out too that, I don't have the language of the statutes that you're citing in your hypothetical, but it was one word, might, and it was already.
Yeah, but that one word distinguishes it from a felony to a misdemeanor.
So do you have an article here? Because I sort of want to give a little bit more context about the arguments that they're arguing about here. So.
Yeah, the Gateway Pundit articles.
The Gateway Pundit?
Yeah.
I'll pull that up right now.
In the same, it's right under it.
Right. I'll pull that up right now because I think that if we have a little context for what it is that the judges are specifically attacking her about, I think you'll have a better appreciation for the outrage that the judges are feeling in this particular case. Let me just pull this up real quick, and we're gonna look at that. Where are Tina Peters? What number is Tina Peters?
No, it's in the private chat.
On the private chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, right below factually.
Gotcha. Thank you. You're awesome, brother. Mm-hmm. Later.
Don't ever subscribe to the Gateway Pundit. I did, and it doesn't do anything. I paid him money, and it didn't do a damn thing. Still got ads and everything.
Yesterday was a good day for former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters, whose appeal was heard in Colorado by a 3-judge appellate panel. Peters was sentenced in a 9-year sentence. We got all this. The charges Peter was convicted of include 3 counts of attempting to influence a public servant, 1 count of conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation, first-degree official misconduct, violation of duty, and failure to comply with an order or requirement from the Secretary of State. The appeal was based on core legal and constitutional errors, according to press release from Peter's legal team. These claims were federal immunity, supremacy clause, insufficient evidence, denial of due process, unconstitutional sentencing, and pardon jurisdiction. It started off shaky with Peter's attorney, John Case, being questioned about the supremacy clause claim. Case argued that it was Peter's obligation to preserve and investigate the election records under 52 U.S.C. 20701. So in other words, what Case, Peter's attorney, Tina Peters' attorney Case, was saying is that under federal law, you have to look into this stuff. So she was complying with federal law. So even if it's violative of Colorado law, she's complying with federal law and upholding federal law. You can't convict her for upholding federal law. However, the panel pushed back and questioned whether investigate element was an obligation under the statute. Case argued that the obligation is to preserve and protect, and that the statute does not prohibit her from investigating the election. The fireworks, however, began when the state presented its arguments. The significant issues that the judges probed revolved around a misstated charge. So in case you're unfamiliar with the way process works, when they're about to send the jury out to deliberate. So what invariably happens is you go through the whole case. You have your opening statements, you got your evidence presented by the state, you have your evidence presented by the defense, and then you have your closing arguments. And after the closing arguments, the jury gets charged by the judge. Now, these jury charges are very, very important. The language in a jury charge is exceedingly important and is something that opposition in both criminal and civil cases will fight vociferously over, because a one-word difference can make all the difference between a thoroughly successful outcome or disaster for your clients. So that's why they'll haggle over the language, and the judge ultimately would decide what language is appropriate to write into the charge. Because now when the jury goes outside, and if they're doing their job properly, which our system banks on the fact that they are, whether or not they are is irrelevant. Our system is betting that they will do their job properly. They're supposed to be reading those charges and trying to understand what they mean, and then come to their assessment as to what they think they believe the facts show, and whether those facts fit in with how those charges are worded to say this side A wins or side B wins. So that's why the jury charges are so incredibly essential, because we expect that the jury is going to be looking at those charges and following them very, very, very thoroughly, very aggressively, tracking the language there, and that's what they're coming to their conclusions based on those charges. So, is it your position that a person can be convicted of a crime which they were never charged? As we just saw, it was one word, might. Yeah, but that word distinguishes from a felony to a misdemeanor. And I mean, they don't really explain the language from the charge. That's what I really want to see, what the language in the charge was.
I thought it was right up there where it says in in this case, it made an extra sentence, 15 more months. Yeah,
it made an extra sentence for how long it was. But apparently there's that one of the elements to this charge is there's a distinction between that they were saying you can convict her if she might have done something, as opposed to if she definitely had done something.
It's a misdemeanor and a felony if she
didn't do it. If she didn't do it, it would just be a felony. But if you're saying now if she might have done it now, excuse me, if she didn't do it, it would be a misdemeanor, right? So you have this element, but we don't know what this element is.
It was intent.
Her intent.
It has to do with intent. Yeah. If she had the intent to do something, like to subvert something or something.
So she might have had the intent, then you can convict her. That's essentially what they're saying. Yeah. But might have had the intent is not enough. She had to have definitely had the intent. And they basically said, if you think she might have had the intent, now convict her of this felony. And if she didn't have the intent, it would only be a misdemeanor. And that's why they're so outraged by the fact that that word was thrown in there. And now, instead of her just getting hit with a misdemeanor, she actually got hit and charged as if it was a felony.
An extra sentence.
So
it was one word, might, and it was already.
Yeah, but that one word distinguishes it from a felony to a misdemeanor.
And this case made an extra sentence, 15 more months in the Department of Corrections that couldn't have been given had it been a misdemeanor conviction. It clearly affects a substantial right.
And I'll just say, I'm
Notice how there's nothing she can say because what they're saying is so obviously true. It's insane. It's insane that the jury charges said that. And
she's smiling, though. That's what makes me go like these people are evil. She's smiling like, yes, so what are you gonna do?
I don't think she's smiling. I think that's an embarrassed smile. If you ask me my opinion, I think she's like sheepish. It's like a sheepish grin, like kind of like, yeah. Like I don't think it's like she's happy about it. I think there's an embarrassment. That's what I'd like to think, that she has some level of humanity. Maybe I'm giving her too much of the benefit of the doubt.
confused as to why the people are continuing to maintain that the proper remedy on this isn't to enter the conviction for the misdemeanor, because the indictment used the word might and the jury was instructed on that. So that's what the verdict is. I am baffled as to the position that's being taken that we can somehow overlook that and still enter the felony because the evidence that was presented at trial would have supported the felony. Are you still maintaining that position in front of us here today?
Yes, that is our.
Yes. Yes. Okay. You want a war story?
Sure.
I'll give you a war story. You might say, what the hell is she thinking saying yes when it's so evident that these judges think she's insane for taking this position? Let me explain to you what the judge here was offering. He's like, look, the way everything was worded here, the maximum that the law allows us to do is to give her a misdemeanor. But there's another way we can go. The other way we can go is we just call this a mistrial and have you start this whole damn thing all over again. That's where we could go. We could toss this entire thing out because basically now you're charging her with something that she couldn't be charged with. You're convicting her of something that she was never, you're convicting her of something she was never charged with, which is obviously a due process violation of her basic civil liberties. Because now she's spending 15 months in jail for a charge she never faced. So what I would think the people, meaning the state, should be, the position should be is, yeah, there was an overcharge there. Instead, just count it as if she was convicted on the misdemeanor and leave it at that and knock down her sentence to reflect that. But this lawyer is unwilling to do that. There is only there are several reasons why she might say, I'm unwilling to take that position of let's give her a misdemeanor. I need to roll the dice that you're going to basically take this position that you're laughing at, astonished at, to this position that you can't believe I have, and hope that you end up coming around to agreeing with me somehow during the course of your deliberations, because I'm not willing to say this is just a misdemeanor. You want to make it a misdemeanor, you can, but in so doing, she's making it more likely they're going to call a mistrial. So, but the reason that a lawyer does that is because you have a boss. That boss could be someone who works in your office. That boss could be a client. In this case, it's certainly someone who's working in our office. But I had an incident once where I had a judge who was attacking me very aggressively about a position because I was representing a landlord in New York City. Do you understand how loathsome judges look at you, that you're representing these leftist Democrat judges, that you're coming in here and representing the rich landlord? So she didn't like me the moment I set foot in her courtroom, because I had the audacity to be representing a landlord against some poor impoverished tenant. And that made me evil. She, by the way, later on, at the time she was in housing court, she was brought up to the Supreme Court later on. What a walking disaster this woman was. And she basically threatened me that she was going to toss my case unless I worked a deal. And I ended up working a deal. And my client was outraged. Outraged. He's like, no, even if I'd rather her toss the case than you work a deal. And so too, because it's basically, that's where I want you to go. I want you to just stand in. I was a brand new attorney. That's why I was in housing court. And he's like, I want you to face the music. And if she smacks you in the face, the judge smacks you in the face, I do not care. I'd rather that than you cave. And I learned that lesson then. It was a very sharp lesson. I learned it. I never made that mistake again. But that's probably what's happening here. Her boss probably told her, no, you're not giving in and making this a misdemeanor. If they knock it down, fine. But the state is not going to go along, is not agreeing to it. Let them overrule you. That's the most likely thing. Alternatively, she is an idiot, which is also possible. That's also possible. Because they're looking at her like she's an idiot.
There's definitely pressure coming from like the Secretary of State and the other clerks and the Attorney General and stuff like that. And they're even, because I have a video clip of the governor talking about it because he's been saying he might commute her sentence.
Yeah. Well,
and they're like, and these people are all saying, no, don't do it. You can't do it. So
well, now it looks like the court, as a matter of law, is going to commute her sentence and say she doesn't have a felony conviction here. That's what they're saying so far. But this is how far I made it. I didn't make it to the next 2 minutes of this. So let's see where they're going.
Position.
What case law supports that argument?
I'm sorry.
What case law supports that
I've cited
argument?
it in my brief. I don't have it right in front of me, but the case.
It's the omitted elements
Yes,
case law,
correct.
right? But that's just where the element was omitted, and but the element that was omitted wasn't in dispute. Here, the jury was affirmatively misinstructed. It was instructed on the misdemeanor, and it found her guilty of that misdemeanor beyond a reasonable doubt. This isn't the omission of an element. This is a misinstructed jury. How can we correct that by saying, no, we'll just assume that because she could have also been convicted of the felony, we enter that even though we don't have a jury verdict? That's a...
I understand it's a difficult position
Okay.
for the people to be in. But
It's not a position you have to take.
Not difficult, insane position.
But thank you. But I do believe that the omitted element language applies because to me, I understand, I
to me, it applies.
The way you're talking about it, it seems more egregious to add this extra word than it is to omit an element. But to me, omitting an element is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, just add this extra word. Yeah, just this extra word that it might have done something.
It might is such an insane word. It's not like you threw in the word like on Tuesday. No, you threw in might, which means even if she didn't, you still have to give her this. That's the problem. Might basically knocks out that you have any need for it to establish intent. Because you're basically saying she may have had the intent. That doesn't, who the hell may have had, so what if she may have had the intent? That's insane. But the case law that seems like she must have provided in her brief is basically like, well, sometimes you need to have multiple elements and in order to prove crime A, because whenever you're proving a crime, you have to show, let's say false imprisonment, right? So you have to show that the person wanted to leave, was unable to leave. This person had an intention to keep them from leaving, right? So if you don't, let's say, put in there, so now those are all, each of those steps that they wanted to leave, withheld from being able to leave, the intent to keep them from being able to be held from leave. These are three different elements which would be in a false imprisonment charge. So let's say you don't put in there that you omit from the charge that they wanted to leave. You just don't put it in there. You don't write it in there that the jury has to find that they wanted to leave. But the other side admits that she wanted to leave. So now you don't need the case law in Colorado seems to say, since they admit that part of it, so if you didn't put it in there, there's no one's contesting that was the state of facts. So it's not a contested state of fact. You don't need to have a trier of fact to come to that conclusion. So that's why this judge is like, that's not relevant here at all. So this crazy lawyer is trying to say, well, I would think missing a whole element is worse than one extra word. No, it's not even. That's such a ridiculous claim because when the omitted element is something that no one was ever fighting about.
But what if that extra word was not in front of guilty?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just one extra word. Why? People get so nitpicky over a word like not.
The fact that can be
Except
not
in those
reversible.
cases, at least the person was originally charged with the elemental language. Here, never on the table.
That is true, but if I can just add, and again,
It's true. She was never charged with
I
it,
will
but
not be able to convince you, but I just want to put my argument out there, which is that there wasn't a confusion from the parties about what they were talking about, because the correct statutory citation was used. So they were on notice of the statutory citation. The language was incorrect, but the statutory citation was correct.
Couldn't that also mean that the prosecution was on notice that they'd only charged, since the language was correct, they'd only charged that language and not,
Well,
I mean, both of them were on notice of something wrong.
Oh, yes. I guess what I'm saying, Your Honor, is just that there wasn't a notice problem because there was the statute.
It's the jury instruction problem, and that's what matters most of anything.
They're trying to say that, I mean, there's really two problems here if you think about it. One is that the jury using basically a wrong set of elements to come to this conclusion. And the second is that the defendant themselves doesn't know that they could face a penalty for this, so they're not defending it. So she's trying to say, well, since we reference the proper statutes, so in that case they are put on notice. That doesn't address the other element, the other problem with the jury, as Jim is pointing out here. It doesn't fix that at all.
As though I think it was an oversight. I think everybody believed that if they had charged and used the language that's what the record bears out, in my estimation.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, that her sentence is gonna come down. They're gonna take at least 15 months off her sentence. So, yeah, that's the Tina Peters update for y'all.
If you want to play, I have a short little 1 minute clip of the governor talking about it.
Oh yeah, that's in the private chat.
No, it's right here. I got it. I have it ready to play.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Share my screen.
Yeah.
With me believing the actions against
What the?
state are happening.
Why is it not playing?
I don't know. You want to give me the link?
Yeah.
We need like one of those music things where it's like with like a picture of like some face like all like, and say sorry for the technical difficulties.
Something. I don't know what's happening there. That is so weird.
All right, let's see what you got here. I got an ad.
Oh, now it's playing. That it's off the screen. It's about 1 minute and 20 seconds into the clip.
I gotcha. I'm gonna try and enlarge the screen here. I'll do it here.
You got mutes all the way to the right.
I know.
Colorado services and budget, with many believing the actions against the state are happening due to Tina Peters remaining in state custody. I asked the governor if he's thinking about the sentence of the former county clerk.
The clemency process has nothing to do with, what the president tweets. I mean, he hates mail-in elections. He hates the fact that, Democrats have a majority in the legislature. I mean, there's many things that he says in many different days. You just have to.
Democrats don't have a majority in the legislature, clown.
As I said, don't give them the headspace. I mean, that's not relevant to that. What is relevant is they've cut over $1 billion in funding, and many of that we were in lawsuits in. Some of it has been restored, but it does make safety, security, a lot of public safety investments, fire prevention.
What the hell is that guy wearing around his neck?
It's a pride flag.
What the hell is that? It doesn't even look like a
Tie.
tie. It doesn't even look like a tie. It's the weirdest. Good golly.
The denial of our two emergency disaster requests from the fires and the floods this summer certainly makes life more difficult for my fellow Colorado.
Theraflu hot liquid therapy works like.
The governor says he wants the pillar of his legacy to be his work on education, things like securing
I
universal.
guess that's it.
Yeah, I guess they gave us an ad before going to the stupid part of the report. So there you go. Channel name FM2 Points says, can you give a legal perspective on why the new Epstein law has no penalties for non-release of the files? How do you have a near unanimous law that is toothless? Well, that's a good question.
What kind of penalties do you think that the government's going to put on the government? They're not going to put penalties on themselves. Sorry. I mean, that's a fact. And, they could always defund something if they're not happy. Congress has that power. Take money away. impeach somebody. I guess I don't know.
It is weird. It is weird. Like, it's a weird thing in general for the government to pass a law that directing the government to do something that they must comply with, and what penalties they would have for failure to comply is kind of hard to come up with. Like, well, what would they do? What would they do?
Contempt of Congress, maybe? I don't know.
JH says, Jim Locals, if you watch The Rocky Mountain Heist, is a 2014 documentary about progressive funding in Colorado, and talk about it, I will give big money. Rocky Mountain Heist. Let me see what he's talking about here. JH Schwalbeck says, you really need to watch The Rocky Mountain Heist. It's a 2014 documentary about progressive funding in Colorado. It is scary and true. It's on YouTube, but it was on Netflix, but taken down. Please watch this. I think I saw something about this. I remember seeing something about how Colorado was turned blue in very illicit ways. Is that what that's
I think
about?
it was when they started mail-in voting. That's what they're talking about, when they started the mail-in voting.
I'm almost positive I saw this and may have covered it already. But
yeah, I think it's from like a long time ago though.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 years ago. And it happened like, all this stuff has been going on since, like, the early aughts, how Colorado has been flipped to be completely deep blue. But I'll look at it and see if it's I'll try to see if it's something I can invest time into. So
probably something that you could watch on Locals or something. Yeah, I don't think you could watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. We'll see. All right. I think it's time for us to move on to our next story, because we got stuff to cover here. Where should we go next? Where do you want to go next? Well, just before we get there, I think that's my point. I don't think that the intent to enforce and never did. In that case, they're all covering up, and talk of justice is fake. Even the victims' lawyers never bring this up.
I always just wanted to know why the victims never named names.
You would think that they would, right?
Yeah.
You would think that they would, but
I hate to be so black-pilled, but I have a feeling that this whole thing was just another political show to try and gain, leverage over someone, and we're doing this, and it was just all a bunch of horse cocky.
A bunch of horse cocky. Well, speaking of a bunch of horse cocky, that's what the court seems to think about Tim Walz' new application here to try and get ICE out of Minnesota, which, if you just think about the idea of trying to get ICE out of Minnesota, is just kind of insane. This is a report that the Minnesota has basically gone to court saying, hey, we don't want ICE here. Get ICE out.
Well, they went ex parte, ran to court, which, they think that they could do that. And they couldn't win even without an opponent.
Yes, that is correct. So procedurally, when you go to civil court, you can try and get a TRO, a temporary restraining order, where you basically say, we need you to sign an order now. That is going to basically say, because there's an emergency happening now, this is a dire situation, we need you to do this. Now, the way it works in the state of New York, which is the only state I've had the good fortune to practice law in, you're supposed to give notice to your adversary that you're going to be going in there. But everything that works with respect to an emergency application like that is going to be working on a very hurried timeline, where you're running to court to get a TRO, and you're filling your papers out, and you're flying down to court, and you're supposed to try to, before you fly down to court, give your opponent 24 hours notice, saying, hey, I'm going to be in court at 11 a.m. tomorrow, and I'm going to be filing papers asking the judge to sign off on an emergency order that says ABC. And you're basically giving your best case scenario perspective, your framing of the facts, and trying to tell the judge, based on this framing of the facts that I'm giving you, give us this relief that I'm saying I desperately need. Often the other side will be there. They'll make sure that if you get that notice, you'll be there. You're saying that the government wasn't even there for this.
Yeah, no, it was ex parte. Yeah.
Right. So when you get in there by yourself, that's the Latin term for that is ex parte, which is spelled X-E-X, new word P-A-R-T-E. And the,
That
often
doesn't mean you just go out drinking with your ex-wife.
right. And often what they will do is they will make a phone call. The judge, I've seen, at least in New York, I can't tell you what they do in Minnesota, but I'll tell you that the judge will make a phone call. And that phone call will be, if it's a known local counsel, they'll be like, what's your position on this application? And why do you think I should grant or deny this application? And this way they trying to get the other side of it. So I don't know that you would think that a judge would make that call, and maybe they made that call. Maybe they felt they didn't need to make that call, but their application presumably was asking for relief, saying direct that the government should stop with their ICE actions right now. Shai is saying I did cover Rocky Mountain about it 18 months ago. I thought I did. Shai pays attention.
I remember, yeah.
I thought I did. Yeah. Okay. So this is what's going on when they made their application for a TRO. It did not go well for Tim Walz.
A Minnesota judge declining to block ICE operations in the state following a lawsuit brought against the Department of Homeland Security. Federal authorities now have until Monday to respond, with the judge recognizing the importance of this case, saying these are, quote, grave and important matters. Constitutional law attorney and former federal prosecutor Katie Cherkasky joins me now. Katie, good morning to you.
Good morning.
This is good news for the administration.
The cleavage attorney.
Limited point, because the judge made it clear that this ruling is temporary. So what happens next?
Well, Minnesota filed this lawsuit to essentially stop ICE from operating within the state. But the reality is that the law is settled on that point. So I think the judge's reaction here, which was to not...
That banner is really saving her.
Which would have immediately stopped ICE from operating, was pretty much telegraphing that this case is probably going to go...
Not anymore.
All the other cases where immigration law...
Easy, big guy. Easy, big guy.
As federal law, it's federal authority. States do not get to dictate or commandeer the federal enactment of the law.
Yeah,
I agree with this attorney. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell Tim Walz is thinking, that he thinks he has any sort of authority to direct how Trump conducts affairs with his federal agents. I don't know where the hell the audacity of even thinking that you might win on this is kind of astonishing.
This is a lawsuit that seeks to block ICE from not operating in the state and not cracking down on illegal immigration, which is the stated goal of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is a legal federal body. So how, in the court of law, can you prevent them from doing their job?
Well, this is a lot of political rhetoric to a large degree. There are some limitations on what ICE and federal law enforcement can do within the state, but largely, as long as the feds are not commandeering the state and requiring them to assist in carrying out the enforcement of federal law, they have to be able to operate within that state. That is something that has been settled for quite some time. And this lawsuit kind of repackages old arguments. I don't anticipate it would result in anything but what we already know to be true.
Yeah, so we said it. The judge's name, her name is Catherine Menendez. She says this case will remain on the front burner. And she also said that this deals with grave and important matters. I could see another judge saying that this is ridiculous. Like, come on, let's toss this out. This is what
And I don't know how it works in Minnesota. As I said, I've never practiced there. I'll tell you, in the state of New York, when you go in for that emergency application, the judge who's assigned to look at it is rarely the judge who ultimately ends up handling your case and deciding the motion. Meaning, so if I have to file an emergency motion on Tuesday, and I run to the courthouse and I file my motion, I say I need a TRO. So they have, at least in New York, an assigned judge who's specifically there for emergency motions.
You call it like a duty judge?
I don't know if you're trying to make a joke with that or not, but I'll tell you.
Like judges that's on duty, like whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that judge is supposed to be on call to basically say, hey, I read through your papers. You have this application that you're saying this is a dire thing that has to be handled this minute. I'm going to review these papers, and they'll try to basically come to a call as to whether or not they're going to grant an order in your favor. And whether or not they agree to the TRO, they'll sign their name on it, but then the judge will get assigned to the case, and when it'll make a return date that will say come back to court after the other side has put in their opposition. So they'll give, so what the way they'll do it is they'll say like, okay, so you come in here on Tuesday the 19th or Tuesday the 20th, and so we're going to tell you come back here on Tuesday the 29th, and the opposition should put on Thursday the 29th, meaning in 9 days or so, and I'll give the opposition a week to put in their papers as to why I should deny your request, as to what's going to happen while this litigation is going forward. So they'll come back relatively quick in as far as court time, but they'll give the other side an opportunity to brief and put in their papers in opposition, and then have a judge decide on it quickly thereafter. And usually it'll be a different judge. The second judge is the one who's going to be handling that case going forward. Meaning at that time they'll assign the case to a judge, and that's the judge who will basically decide what's going to happen with this in moving forward for the balance of litigation. So that's what would happen in New York. I don't know if that's how it works in Minnesota or not, but that's what I wouldn't be surprised to see that. That'll be a different judge. Whatever judge is looking at today is very possibly going to be a different judge. I would expect it to be a different judge next time.
ICE's job is. Can you read the tea leaves in terms of that limited statement that she made as to what her thought process might be, or am I jumping to conclusions?
Well, it's hard to say based on her initial reaction, but we've seen lower court judges get reversed all the time. So irrespective of whether she at the lower court level decides that they're violating the law, inevitably the case will go all the way up to the Supreme Court. And because there is so much Supreme Court precedent that says ICE can operate within a state as long as they're not forcing state actors to assist them, then it's not going to have a different result likely.
Okay, so the state is suing the federal government suing the state as well. The Trump administration just announced a lawsuit against Minnesota's DEI hiring practices, with Attorney General Pam Bondi writing, making hiring decisions based on immutable characteristics like race and sex is simple discrimination, and the Trump administration has no tolerance for such DEI policies. Can you explain this one to us?
Well, when states are receiving federal funds, there are limitations on the conduct that they can engage in. And this has been a priority of the Trump administration to target these programs and to not essentially reward states or other actors or institutions that are using DEI, which is discriminatory under the Civil Rights Act. And so to that end, that's what this deals with. Now, Minnesota will say this is some sort of retaliation, but it's really just a separate legal issue altogether.
It's a heated battle on so many fronts.
Absolutely.
Katie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
All right, Todd.
So there you go. There you go. Tim Walz going down in flames yet again. Which I kind of think, you're starting to think that he actually is enjoying the flames. Maybe that would explain a lot about Tim Walz. But we have an article here from Jonathan Turley where he breaks this down in greater detail, where he writes, yesterday, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, on behalf of the state,
he kind of left something out there. It's supposed to say, Keith, I am Antifa Ellison.
Did he actually say that?
Yeah, he had Antifa. I am Antifa. He held the Antifa handbook and all that stuff up. Took pictures.
And alongside cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, filed a federal lawsuit that is most notable in the absence of any intelligible legal principle. That makes me feel like I want to read it. The effort to stop the surge of federal personnel to investigate fraud and enforcement of immigration is breathtakingly frivolous and farcical. Ellison has long been more advocate than attorney in his public life, even praising Antifa for instilling fear in Trump and Ellison's political opponents.
I have the lawsuit, just so you know. It's 80 pages. I don't know if you want it.
Oh, good golly, no. Ellison, that's the sort of thing Robert Gouveia does very effectively. He's really good at that. He can plow through 80 pages in like 40 minutes. For me, I'm like, I'll end up spending 4 hours on it. Ellison has been actively trying to tamp down coverage of the massive fraud under his watch, including potentially billions meant to support children and impoverished families. Recently, a tape was released in which Ellison met with Somali figures later convicted of fraud and agreed with them that they needed to support candidates that will fight to protect our interests. Now Ellison is actually trying to get a federal court to prevent the federal government from surging resources in the state to investigate and prosecute fraud. The filing is little more than a press release with a caption on it. Quote, the Trump administration's new focus on fraud in Minnesota is just its latest attempt to attack Democratic politicians and more aggressively and recklessly implement their immigration enforcement agenda. Ellison wants the federal courts to prevent the assignment of federal investigators and law enforcement to the state to enforce federal law. Ironically, the state is making this argument as a matter of state rights under the 10th Amendment, as well as a series of equally frivolous claims under the Administrative Procedure Act. Notably, they're trying to dictate the deployment of federal personnel resources as a federalism claim. That is pretty funny. The filing is a diatribe that vaguely alleges racial profiling and attacks on law-abiding citizens. At the press conference, St. Paul Mayor K.O. he, her, K.O. he, that's what I call her. I call her K.O. he, her, declared, federal law enforcement's occupation of our city is putting us all at risk. Ellison repeated the reckless rhetoric, insisting that the federal invasion of the Twin Cities has to stop. So today, I'm suing DHS to bring it to an end. This is purely performative measure using a filing to give the appearance of action to satisfy irate constituents. Hopefully, the district court will respond with clarity about the use of federal courts for political screeds. And then he quotes the famous line from Billy Madison here, which I'm sure you've all heard and seen many times, which is this one here.
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point
during
in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but...
Yeah, so there you go. There you go. So, and he has the filing over there. So yeah, I have no doubt that this case is going down in flames. And as it should. As it should. So where was we? I think that was the second thing I wanted to cover. We got Tina Peters. We got Tim Walz. We're only an hour in. We're making really good headway here. Let's get these super chat numbers up. These are rookie numbers. Saturday with Joe. There you go. There you go. Saturday with Joe. We're moving along. The numbers are coming. The numbers are coming along. You don't realize that there's actually an extra 2 that came in on locals, courtesy of J.H. Schwalbach, and then there was another one on. There was a Rumble rant from Dan Vicious saying $10 cheap plug for my stuff. What stuff are we plugging, Dan Vicious? Because this now becomes a write-off for Dan Vicious. You guys need to go to shop.danvicious.com. Check out shopdanvicious.com. Let me show you the great stuff you're going to have at shop.danvicious.com. Look at these amazing T-shirts that he has there. Stop giving groomers access to your children. No natural immunity. Cult of the masked comedians. Covidians. Oh, the masked Covidians. Oh, I like that. That's not bad. Anti-socialist, critical thinking, not critical theory. Like it. Like it. Look at this. This is all available. All available at shop.danvicious.com. Make sure you check it out at your earliest convenience. Prices even seem incredibly reasonable. Look at this. Sweatshirt for $38. Transgenderism is a Gnostic psyop. I like it. This is a great job. Great job by Dan Vicious. All right. See? I plug.
Good job.
Thank you. Hands One says, it's a violation of due process. You have to be on notice of what you're charged with, but I'm sure they don't care about due process for this case. Duckfat says, neither my wife nor I have received our text notification here in Colorado that our ballots were counted from November 25th election. Not the first time. I didn't know you have that. You're supposed to get text verification because they don't have that here in Jersey. Do you get text verification where you are?
We have to go look. You can go in and you put in your information, and it'll say, and you could track your ballot in Florida. You can see that was counted and everything. Like in Florida, they count the ballots ahead of time, Like it'll be counted before election day and everything, and then they just don't report it.
Mm. But you're saying you can find it if you.
You can find out. Make sure it's counted. Yeah, your ballot is counted.
All right, so I have lots more referenced here, and I actually want to jump over to the state law thing before we get into the insurrection thing. We'll veer away from Tim Walz, even though the truth is the Tim Walz ties into it. Really does tie into it. We should stick with the insurrection. We should go there to stay on track with what with Tim Walz losing with respect to ICE. Part of the reason that they have so many ICE officials in there is because there's so much craziness going on with ICE. And now there is talk of the idea of Trump declaring the Insurrection Act. Why? Why would that be? Well, check this out. This is just two different clips as to the insanity happening in the Twin Cities right now.
This was an FBI agent's car, I believe.
I hope so. I hope it's not some randos.
No, I'm saying like they and this is because they're pretty sure what happened is that there was a release to some guy. They said it was a whistleblower that released all the names of the feds that lived in Minnesota and their home addresses and stuff. This is the result of that. They went to people's houses and started breaking into cars.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, that seems like a pretty serious freaking crime.
That guy's already been arrested.
Has he?
Yeah, he's a gang member. Known gang member with the tattoo on his face, so they knew who he was. He was easy to find.
Idiots. So stupid.
There's some bullets.
Now, surprisingly, though, Joe, I believe that is a violation of federal, like a serious federal felony, because they're stealing ammunition out of a federal vehicle. It's kind of like in the gun. It's basically like a 10-year felony.
Is it really?
Yes. Yes.
Oh. They're so stupid. Okay.
According to the law, a single bullet is the same as a gun. According to the law.
Folks, never commit a federal felony. Never videotape yourself committing a federal felony. They're so stupid. We're watching natural selection at work right here.
Ain't no way.
Haha, survival of the dumbest.
Trying to get there. Did he get? Okay. Hey, don't film that. He's out running.
Whoops.
No.
Oh, shit. Here come the popo. Here come the popo. Oh my God. They're stupid.
their phone, you know.
Look at this car. Here they come. They all flee. They all flee. I got one more clip for you all. Is this the same one? No, this is a different one, I think. Yeah, this is a different one.
Hey, listen, I'll tell y'all nothing. They on the Snapchat, so they gonna be on y'all ass if y'all recording this. They gonna be on your ass. They gonna be on your ass. Your ass is a witness. Hey, don't hit them.
It's like Santa came early for them.
Break that bitch.
Please don't. Don't fuck with Minneapolis. They got the motherfucking.
Not to mention, all these people have their phones. They will know who they all are because their phones. They're going to geofence the area. And go, okay, whose phones were there? Oh, this is this guy's phone. This guy's phone. We got this guy. Got this guy. Bup, 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 bup. It's dumb. Dumb. Da dum dum.
So stupid. So stupid. This is so dumb. And their phones can be seized as evidence. It's so dumb.
Watch out.
Now we're all curious, is he going to get it open? Is he finally going to get it open or not?
Be careful. That kid sounds empty, man.
Oh, you doing okay, man?
I'm okay. How are you? Yeah, dude, there's nothing in there. There could be coins in there.
I don't think they're going to get it open. I guess they didn't get it open. All right. So there's mayhem going on there, and that mayhem is just getting worse and worse, which led the White House to share out this Truth Social post from Donald Trump. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that has taken place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. President DJT. So there you go. There you go. It's looking like, I'm going to say this. I think the pressure, look at this, some of the pictures from this chaos. Look at these pictures. Look at this mayhem. It looks like Chicago, for crying out loud. This is insanity. I'm going to tell you right now, I think he needs to invoke the Insurrection Act. I think he does. Now, maybe he wants to wait until after. Maybe his advisors are telling him to wait until after the court rules on the Minnesota application for injunctive relief. Maybe wait until then. It's an interesting question as to what it would do with respect to that application if he invokes the Insurrection Act. But yeah, Jim, you tell me, if he doesn't invoke the Insurrection Act.
I think he's failing us all if he doesn't. It's beyond time. He failed by not doing it in 2020, in my humble opinion, during the, summer of love.
Right.
When all this stuff happened, Portland, when they sent up the Chaz Chap and all that stuff, and, setting up autonomous zones now in Minneapolis. It's beyond time. It has to happen. And then once you do that, then if a judge gets out of line, you arrest the judge.
I mean, I don't think you need to invoke the Insurrection Act in order to arrest a judge, but yeah, I think that at this point in time, there's no effort by the city of Minnesota to rein this in. If anything, their political leaders encourage it. Right? I mean, they're basically instead of complaining about anything happening or trying to talk people down, they're just yelling at the federal government louder and louder. Here is Kristi Noem weighing in on this.
Secretary, what's it going to take to end the violence in Minnesota?
Any plans to pull out of Minnesota? No plans to pull out of Minnesota.
I make this bigger.
We're seeing on the ground there. Would you describe it as an insurrection?
You got to go back up. It's popped out on you. So go scroll back up. There it is. It should be.
That's it there.
Maybe it's got to be up somewhere.
There
it's
it
right
is.
there. It is. That's it.
Let's do it that way.
Queen of Australia signs letters patent allowed.
What is that? That's not. Well, it was popped out. I don't know. Is there another one above it?
I go higher.
Right there.
There
it
you
is.
go. There you go.
It as to pull out of Minnesota. How would you describe what you were seeing on the ground there? Would you describe it as an insurrection, and do you believe the president should invoke the Insurrection Act? I describe it as violent and a violation of the law in many places. I discussed with the president this morning several things that we are dealing with under the.
This is a cautious answer she's giving here, because you cannot. She can't. I think about being in her position, right, Jim? You think that she can say, yes, there's an insurrection going on there and jump in front of the president that way? Because what if he ends up not declaring an Insurrection Act? If he doesn't invoke the Insurrection Act, then her statement is used as a bludgeon to say he failed to quell the insurrection. So she cannot say it's an insurrection, but she doesn't want to say it's not an insurrection, because if he ends up declaring the Insurrection Act, they'll be like, why are you doing that? Your own head of DHS said it's not an insurrection. Why are you calling it an insurrection? So she's basically in a lose-lose position here when facing this question. I think she's artfully dodging it by basically not committing one way or another.
Department and different operations. We did discuss the Insurrection Act. He certainly has the constitutional authority to utilize that. My hope is that this leadership team in Minnesota will start to work with us to get criminals off the streets. Remember, we are there in surged operations because of the largest fraud scheme in American history. We had people stealing from taxpayers, stealing funds away from the most vulnerable individuals in this country, people who needed mental health services, developmental services, autism, daycare. Instead, individuals came in, much from the Somalian community, and stole dollars from those people who needed it and put it in their own pockets and enriched themselves. Did it right under Governor Walz's nose. And we believe that he didn't just know about it, that he may be complicit in it as well.
Do you believe there are any cases in Minnesota where the ICE agents have gone too far?
Our ICE agents are following the law and running their operations according to training. Last night, what we saw was 3 individuals weaponize shovels and brooms and attack an ICE officer that had to defend himself. So we're hopeful that we don't see that again, that these protesters and violent rioters will be held accountable for the actions that they're taking, and that our officers.
Well, they damn well better be.
President Trump is so strong at taking action and making sure he's in every single state, following through on his commitments to every single citizen.
Did the president say what his final straw would be to invoke the Insurrection Act?
No, this president uses all the information and intelligence that he can get. That's why he calls me, he calls Pete, he calls local law enforcement. He talks to those
Let's put this blonde woman here.
individuals and agents as well that are involved that he knows well. This president makes fully informed decisions and utilizes his authorities when it's appropriate.
Secretary Noem, are you okay with federal agents and officers violating people's Fourth Amendment rights by asking for papers without reasonable suspicion?
Every single action that our ICE officers take is according to the law and following protocols that we have used for years.
But it's such a gotcha question. Are you okay with them breaking the law? It's like, we're just going to assume that they're breaking the law. Are you okay with that? Are you happy that they're breaking the law and violating people's civil liberties?
Isn't it like the state law in almost every one of these states that if an officer asks you for your identification, you have to provide it?
So they're not supposed to, there's such a thing called a Terry stop. Like, you're not supposed to ask someone unless you have reasonably articulable basis in order to hold.
No,
someone.
just to ask them to identify themselves. That's it.
I don't think they have that right. I don't think that they can't just walk up to you. You're walking down the street. Cop can't be like, "Hey, show me your ID." Again, they have to have some sort of articulable basis as to why it is that they're stopping you. That is true. Now, so because you don't have a some cop walks up to you and says, "Show me your ID." You don't have a duty to show them that.
This administration has used, that the previous administration used. They are doing everything correctly, and over again in litigation in the courts, we've proven that they've done the right thing.
Why is it within their right to do that?
Now, if you see a brown person, right, who is, looking around in a sketchy type of way when he sees the ICE thing and looks like he's, about to bolt in some direction, that right there can create a reasonable basis for suspicion, right? Like someone acting particularly jumpy.
I have it on very good authority, though, that every one of these people they arrest is identified as white on the paperwork.
I'm just saying, so it could be that they're harassing ICE or impeding ICE or doing other things which make them ask for their papers. And I'm sure that whatever it is that they did to harass them, they don't tell the news about that. They just pretend that all this stuff is happening. And this lapdog media who's trying to portray Trump as being bad just is like, oh, yeah, you see this happening all the time. Here's all these people saying it, but these people are, a couple of hundred lunatics who basically have been harassing ICE and are tracking ICE to try and harass them. So they don't really have much credibility themselves when they're saying that their civil rights were violated, that they were forced to show papers, without just cause.
Why is it within their right to ask for papers without reasonable suspicion?
With the president's
I think it's
you say
important.
you discussed the Insurrection Act with the president. Did you recommend that?
No, we just discussed it, that it was one of the options that he had constitutionally. And we talked about the fact that we're going to continue our operations in Minneapolis and have the resources that we need to get the job done.
Do you think that there needs to be an Insurrection Act invoked?
Oh, I think that the president has that opportunity in the future. It's his constitutional right, and it's up to him if he wants to utilize it.
She doesn't want to answer that question. How can she answer that question? What is she going to say? There's nothing she can say to that.
I'll say, I think he should.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I think if not now, when? If not now, when? You're going to wait until they're like marching the streets with guns and axes, and at what point?
Oh,
but if he does do it, will it lead to more deadly killings in Minnesota if the Insurrection Act is?
What kind of retarded question is that? Will it lead to more deadly killings as opposed to the non-deadly killings?
It's not his invoking it. It's their crazy actions require it. It's like they're so stupid. Each of them are showing that they have no they're either acting in bad faith, which is almost certainly the case, or they have absolutely no clue what it takes to have leadership. To say that, look, this is what we're doing. And just because a whole bunch of people aren't happy about it doesn't mean we're going to stop. Like, oh, people are sitting there crying about ICE, so therefore we're just going to abandon ICE. Like, what are you, stupid? Like, that's someone who should never be leading anything. Anything. You shouldn't be you shouldn't be you shouldn't be able to sing the leader of the pack. If you're on stage singing the leader of the pack, they should boo you off, because that's how little you know about leadership. Even though it's a good song.
It doesn't change with Governor.
It's a sad song also. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It's
because he dies, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I happen to be a big fan of that song. I think there's something that's very sweet about it, but yeah.
Walls.
Good tune.
I don't anticipate that the streets will get any safer or more peaceful. Governor Walz and his leadership team need to come to us and find out how we can work together like we have in many other states. We didn't see this kind of reaction in Louisiana.
If you check the private chat, I put a link for Kash Patel talking about this insurrection stuff. And also there's the update on the guy that stole the gun with the tattoo on his face. And then the 3 guys that attacked the ICE agent that caused all the stuff with the shovel.
Basically, what Jim is telling you is, I'm not just sitting here shotgun with you. I'm a busy beaver. So I'll get the tattoo guy first, because you labeled that one very neatly for me here.
Well, Kash Patel, it's easy. And then the other one.
Yeah, that's true. It's right above
easy.
that. Yeah.
The other one is the link for the post on X, and then the actual link for the story under it. So you can't put 2 links in the same comment.
True. Breaking leftist terrorist captured by film by Nick Serter, breaking into an FBI weapon safe included inside a federal vehicle in Minneapolis. Stealing rifle has been arrested. Raul Gutierrez. With his stupid face tattoo. Aren't you such a badass? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I can't believe it sounded like Nick Serter was there. I can't believe that no one beat the hell out of him there. Everywhere he goes, that guy, leftists are beating the hell out of him. I can't believe they're so stupid to let him near him. So that is great news. And here is Kash Patel. Where he's weighing in, saying that the FBI is investigating every single organization and person responsible for funding or contributing to the organization of these violent protests like the ones in Minneapolis. Good. That's what we need to get. We need to get the people behind these riots. Because this is not organic. This is the furthest thing from organic.
I can tell you, generally speaking, that these protests, whether it's Minneapolis or LA or Portland or where have you, aren't spontaneous. They don't magically appear. Most of these individuals aren't even from those respective areas. But more importantly, behind that, someone has to pay for it. Somebody has to pay for the transportation. Somebody has to pay for the signs. And when you find things like every single person is holding the exact same sign on the exact same piece of wood and the exact same placard, they didn't get together beforehand and do that. It is an organized, in my opinion, effort to criminally disrupt and cause chaos into our communities. And this FBI is investigating every single organization and person responsible for paying or contributing in any way to the organization of these protests, and also going after those actors, the criminal actors at the protests themselves.
Which you're sort of treading on in a little bit dangerous waters to the extent that some of these protests do not break out in violence. So obviously you have to have concerns about First Amendment right of assembly and whether the government is interfering with that, right? It's not something that, it's not such a simple thing. It's because at the time that it's being organized, you have to establish that there's an objective for there to be law breaking going on. And that's probably much, much, much harder to prove.
Well, I think if they could get a hold of communications from these organizations like that ICE Watch that woman Renee Good or whatever her name was belonged to, and the different groups, and you get their training manuals that are explaining to them, that basically are instructing them to commit a felony. Go up and hit the cop's arms to separate it from the people and do this, and then it's a criminal conspiracy. So it doesn't matter if they, all they have to do is make one furtive or one furtive action or something like that to
avert
action.
Yeah,
a furtive motion is what they do when you say you're going to shoot them.
Yeah, a furtive just means like fleeting, a quick motion, but like a furtive look at a furtive glance. But you need to have an overt act in order to establish conspiracy, but there has to be an objective to actually break the law. That's what makes it much more challenging, rather than, if they set up a peaceful protest and there's no direct statement about, ramming into ICE vehicles, then you can't really establish that there's a crime going on here. Now, and I believe that if they do enough digging, they will find stated objectives of, who can we find who'd be willing to ram their vehicle. I think that they will find that. There's such a outbreak of people who are willing to break the law that you have to feel as if that they're getting encouragement from somewhere. And perhaps that could create a criminal conspiracy, a criminal enterprise designed to disrupt the federal activity. And I think that there you start, the left will start complaining that you're trying to suppress freedom of speech and freedom of right of assembly and right to protest and blah, blah, blah. But if you can find in black and white, which will be trickier because I'm sure they're probably not stupid in the way they do it. But if you find black and white texts, talking about go out there, you just hit the car as hard as you can, and then you break out, come out the door, and we'll have an escape vehicle for you.
Some of them are pretty stupid.
Yeah. So,
I mean, they don't think that ICE are actually law enforcement.
Yeah. So some of the sheriffs from Philadelphia are pretty stupid.
Yeah.
So we do have some good news. Yesterday, if you heard, that was reported in the middle of the show yesterday that there was another shooting by ICE of in the intent to make an arrest, and we saw a reference by Kirsty Noam to that ICE agent who was under attack. The three people who were involved in that, 3 men arrested for attempted murder of feds in Minneapolis, were ID'd as illegal immigrants from Venezuela. And yeah, how was it attempted murder? Well, you're hitting with shovel, jackass. This is stupid. So, anyway, this Jesus freaking Congress is some crazy leftist.
Yeah. How dare they enforce the law against 3 guys who attacked him and ran into a house? There was a pregnant woman in the house.
Yeah.
Sounds like she should make a better choice about who she gets pregnant by or who she hangs out with, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
the utter outrage is so not sympathetic. Anyhow, what's this last link you gave me here?
That's just a story from the New York Post.
Okay, fine. Okay, I'll break that down really quickly before we move on. Three men. I wish I can just make it naturally go to this size. That would be really helpful. That would be really helpful. All right. 3 men arrested for attempted murder of feds in Minneapolis, ID'd as illegal immigrants. They're not illegal immigrants. They're illegal aliens. Not immigrants. The 3 men arrested for ambushing an ICE agent in Minneapolis on Wednesday have all been identified as illegal immigrants from Venezuela, adios amigos, who were led into the country under the Biden administration, officials said Thursday, calling the attack an attempted murder of federal law enforcement 8 officers. DHS said the suspects, Julio Cesar Sosa Celis, by the seashore, Alfredo Alejandro Ahorna, why are they all alliterations? And Gabriel Alejandro Hernandez Ledzema were all in the country illegally and now in ICE custody. What we saw last night in Minneapolis, attempted murder of federal law enforcement. Our officer was ambushed and attacked by 3 individuals who beat him with snow shovels and handles of brooms. Fearing for his life, the officer fired a defensive shot. Mayor Jacob Fry, Governor Tim Walz have to get their city under control. They're encouraging, impeding an assault against our law enforcement, which is a federal crime, a felony, and this is putting people in Minnesota in harm's way. Of course, they don't care about that. They just care about trying to make the Trump administration look bad. And they feel like if there are people who get hurt as a result of that, that's a good thing. They don't care about the very people they're purporting to try to help. All they care about ultimately is
power.
Yeah, pushing that same stupid narrative. You shared a link with me of that Minnesota cop, that Minneapolis cop who was talking about how these arrest things have been violent, and Jacob Fry was not happy about it. I don't see it here, though.
I get it. Hold on.
I don't know if you're able to pull that up for me. But meanwhile,
they're talking about the chief of police, right?
Yeah. Meanwhile, I can catch up on some of these other chats here. Joe, this is to help with Saturday show. Thank you, Kansas Mima. Thank you so much. And thank you to Fumal Few, Saturday Night Joe, SNJ. Love it. The Border Patrol has special powers to ask for ID within 100 miles of the border. It's a huge range. Oh, that's interesting. But I can assure you that Minnesota is not within 100 miles. So, will someone else help with the super chats? And we need 2 more. Oh, look at that. Look at that. And sure enough, fellows who comes to rescue, reasonable suspicion is quite broad. So is Noam. I don't think Noam is quite broad. I mean, quite honest. I mean, reasonable suspicion is very broad. It's the lowest standard. It's much lower than probable cause. But it has to be facts that you can articulate. I've covered this on the show many times. But it has to be facts that you can articulate as to why it is that you are concerned about an ongoing crime. So it's not something that I had a feeling. You have to be able to say they did this and there was that. You have to be able to state why it is that the stop is being made. Breaking into FBI vehicles would be destruction of government property or no? Yeah, I would say so. I would definitely say yes. To me, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Brian Oldenkamp, God bless you. This guy coming in here saying we're gonna meet our goal here. We're meeting our freaking goal. So we're an hour and 36 minutes in. Where are we at there? Where are we at there? Freaking goal. So we're an hour and 30. Look at that. Look at that. Doing well. Doing well. Frankly, I think we actually hit our goal. I think technically it's got 14 over here. I think we're good on the goal. I'll call it. I'm going to call it. Goal! I'm going to call it. Between J.H. Schwalbeck, where he sent 2 in locals, and we had another one in Dan Vicious, who now has sent 2 and said, thanks for the cheap plug. So, because he gave me another one saying, thanks for the cheap plug. That was when I was he was referencing that I was saying, you need to go to shop.danvicious.com. No S in vicious, no matter what you think. It's DANVICIOUS, danvicious.com. Hands one pack saying this is a violation of due process. You have to be on notice what you're charged with. Oh, we got this one already. I got that one already. So yeah, I'm calling this goal met. There you go. There you go. Okay. So Saturday Night Show is on. We're good to go. Also, I'll remind you all that after the show, I will be doing a watch of the movie Esther, starring F. Murray Abraham, and I will be informing you all of the things that they got right and wrong in that movie. I've watched the first 5 minutes of it. And was seeing a lot wrong. But I do remember seeing the middle section of it and being impressed by some of the things they did that they got right. So I feel like I'm going to have like every 30 seconds something to say like, this is right, this is wrong. And the story of the book of Esther is the story that leads us to the holiday of Purim, which is the next holiday in the Jewish calendar coming up in roughly, say, 6 weeks or so. Thereabouts. 7 weeks.
Just put 2 things in the private chat for you. One of them is that police chief. The other one is what should have been the intro video.
That is an interesting point. That much of Minnesota is within 100 miles of the Canadian border. I don't think Minneapolis is, though. I'd be surprised. Is Minneapolis within 100 miles of the Canadian border?
Well, it also has to do with
And the
like,
truth is,
there's
it
rivers.
could be because it comes down.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go to the top of Minnesota. You got the rivers there. That's a great point. That is a great point, Carson Dimension. Yeah, technically, like Detroit's within 100 miles of the border. And Chicago's definitely within 100 miles of the border. I didn't think of that. Well done. Canada borders Minnesota, Minneapolis may be apart. Now I gotta look at a map of the United States. now I'm rethinking my position on that. Excuse me. Map of U.S. states. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do this even better. I'm going to ask Grok. Grok, can you do me a favor real quick here?
Sure thing. What's up?
Can you draw me a map of the United States and highlight in yellow any part of the map which is within 100 miles of a U.S. border? And in that map of the United States, make sure you include, all major cities. Does that work for you?
I don't know. That noise is very...
Yeah, I can totally do that for you. Just give me a sec to generate the map. You want the whole U.S. with major cities marked and that 100-mile border zone highlighted in yellow, right? Confirm that real quick and I'll whip it up.
Yes, please.
Whip it good.
Generating the map now.
All right, I'm just going to say. Oh my gosh. Come on. Create the map. I don't know why it's not doing this. All right. I'm going to try ChatGPT. We'll see if they do it better. Because I want to see that map. I really want to see it now. I'm very, very curious. ChatGPT, can you do me a favor, please, and create a map of the United States? I'd like you to highlight all major cities and highlight in yellow any portion of that map which is within 100 miles of any U.S. border.
I can't create maps or images directly myself, but I can definitely help you figure out how you could do this using a mapping tool or GIS software.
All right, you fail. Why can... Create a map of the U.S. marking in yellow. Any portion within 100 miles of any U.S. border. Include all major cities. It does basically include the entire East Coast. They're giving a list of all the cities that are within 100 miles of a border. The entire East Coast, entire West Coast, the entire, it is a lot of the country. It is a lot of the country. All right. I'm going to ask about Minneapolis. I assume Minneapolis is. I assume the U.S.-Canada border. I mean, Minneapolis is within 100 miles.
Yeah, it's 57 miles from Thunder Bay, Canada.
Wow. That's funny. That's really funny. All right. Good job, Cars and Dimension, calling that out. Jim Ratty! I don't know what that means, but
I don't know.
All right.
You know, I mean, they always complain, but you know, if anyone's ever driven into the state of California, just driving into the state, they stop your car and they ask you all types of questions. You search your car to see if you have any fruit or vegetables or anything in your car, and all types of weird shit. And that's not unconstitutional, according to the left, you know, because it's the demon rat California is doing it. So
when you're in a car, you're in a different scenario with respect to, it's much easier for them to find bases to pull you over than if you're not. Then if you're
no, it's like a thing where they stop. It's like a agricultural thing when you enter the state. They search all your cars.
All right, I was unaware of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. California's nuts.
All right, so you're sharing with me here a whole bunch of other links, and this is leading me into two state laws that I want to cover with you that I want to break down for you. And I only got like 15 minutes before I'm supposed to be going live somewhere else. So I'm supposed to be going live on Locals. And also, it's not going to be just, by the way, it's not just on Locals. I'm going to be doing it on a member show also. So if you're not a member in Locals and you are a member here in YouTube, if you're a follower, I'm going to be trying to share it out here with you also. I don't know how well that's going to work, because I'm going to be watching a movie with you that's on YouTube, and they may cut me down, but I'm going to try to do it. We'll see. If
they strike you down, you will come back even stronger.
If you strike me down, I'll come back even stronger. That's almost certainly true.
I thought you wanted that video of the police chief.
Oh, yes.
Private chat.
Thank you. I did want this video before I moved on to the Colorado thing. God bless you. See, he gets me back on track here. So we're going to do this real fast. We're going to do this. Even in Minnesota, the police are like not really on the same page as what the local mayoral office is. As you watch Jacob Fry getting like a real hankering for something here. Not too pleased with what he's about to hear.
My name is Brian O'Hara, BRIANO''HARA. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. At 6:51 p.m., Minneapolis police received a 911 call reporting a shooting on the 600 block of 24 Avenue North. Preliminary information indicates that there was a struggle with a federal agent in front of the resident. During the struggle, the federal agent discharged his weapon, striking one adult male. The adult male then retreated inside of the residence, where he remained inside and refused to come out. Eventually, federal agents made entry into the residence, and the individual was brought to an ambulance where he has been transported to the hospital. Minneapolis police have secured the crime scene around the location, and the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, as well as the FBI, are on the scene processing the evidence. There's a crowd gathered in the area, and we have called for mutual aid from the Minnesota State Patrol and Hennepin County Sheriff. The crowd is engaging in unlawful acts. They have thrown fireworks at police officers, and at multiple times, gas has been deployed.
Look at his face when O'Hara, when Sergeant O'Hara here. Sorry, it's Chief O'Hara, but it's just really funny to hear a head of police using the same name as the character from Batman. So, Chief O'Hara here is Chief O'Hara, right? It's Chief O'Hara in Batman, isn't it?
Yeah, his wife's name is Scarlett.
Yeah. It's Chief O'Hara here, when he's talking about deployment of gas. So you could see how uncomfortable that makes Fry. I don't know why. Maybe too much fried food.
Police are attempting to disperse this unlawful assembly at this time. I urge anyone that is at the scene to leave immediately. This is already a very tense situation, and we do not need this to escalate any further. I have faith that the investigators are involved will follow every lead in this case and ensure it is completed to its logical conclusion.
There you go. There you go. All right. Thank you for putting your hands on that, brother.
No problem.
Is Perm our drunken holiday? Yes, it is when we get drunk. That's the one where you see me as a blue genie, as a golden flower, as whatever. I think I know what my costume is going to be this year. I think I know. It may or may not disappoint you, but we'll see. I think I know. I got a feeling. We've been in talks. The family has been in talks because there's always a family theme in my house. So what we dress up as, but the family's been in talks, and I think I know. I need to confirm with Lady Logic. She's out of the country, but we came up with it this week. I'm like, I kind of like that idea. All right. Let's talk about these two laws. We're going to start in Colorado. Two bills. Oh, wait, I had this also. I drove from San Diego to Texas back, stopped 6 times each way at border area checks. Yes, I voted for this. There you go. There you go. There you go. From San Diego to Texas. Yeah, keep stopping them. Keep stopping them. This is the only way we're going to get rid of them. All right. So before the show, when I was prepping with Jim, he mentioned 2 different states which are passing bills which are invoking interesting laws that I just wanted to weigh in with on my thoughts about these bills. I haven't reviewed the bills themselves, but just conceptually, whether these bills seem like they could run afoul of the Constitution or be legitimate. And the first one is here in Colorado. Well, I guess they're in Colorado because the other one's here in New Jersey. Colorado Democrats introduced a bill to make citizens liable for civil damages if they call in to tip ICE. You do not hate the Democrat Party enough. If you are a civilian who calls in a tip to ICE, you could potentially face civil damages. So SB 26-005 in Colorado quietly creates a new civil lawsuit. It's actually a possibility. For immigration enforcement. And because it labels any person participating in immigration enforcement, it raises a real question. Could a private citizen who called in the individual who's injured during immigration enforcement activity be sued or face legal action? The bill doesn't clearly exclude private citizens or private good faith reporting at all. So day one of Colorado state legislative session is off to a crazy start. Let's hear this.
Who calls in a tip to ICE, you could potentially imagine a piece of legislation being introduced in your state that completely ignores the supremacy clause. But additionally, if you're a civilian who calls in a tip to ICE, you could potentially face civil damages. So SB 26-005 in Colorado quietly creates a new civil lawsuit for immigration enforcement. And because it labels any person participating in immigration enforcement, it raises a real question. Could a private citizen who called in the individual who's injured during immigration enforcement activities be sued or face legal action? The bill doesn't clearly exclude private citizens or protect good faith reporting at all. So day one of Colorado state legislative session is off to a crazy start. Let's see where this bill goes. It's so far only been introduced, but as always, I'll keep you posted.
So this is an interesting thought. Can there be civil liability? Can a state actually do this? She claims that's ignoring the supremacy clause. If you want to say it's ignoring the supremacy clause, you're going to have to establish that a person has a legal right to do this. If not a legal right, perhaps you might even need to establish a person has a legal obligation to report. Meaning, if there's a legal obligation to report someone, that I don't know that there is such a legal obligation. I know that my neighbor living in house X is an illegal immigrant. Do I have a legal duty to report that person? Till now, you certainly would say I have a legal right. Anyone would think of a legal right to give a tip to ICE about them. But do I have a legal duty that if I fail to do so, I could be held accountable? Chances are almost certainly not. I don't think that would qualify as aiding and abetting, right? So now let's say I make this call. I live in Colorado, and I make this call in. And then ICE comes and does a raid, and there's some sort of fracas that happens, and someone gets seriously injured or dies. So they say, well, the only reason ICE is here is because you, Joe, decided to call ICE. So now Colorado has a law saying that the victim of that injury can now sue me that I put them in a position that they ended up ultimately getting hurt by calling them into the feds. So this Lady Logic calling me. Give me 1 second.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, I'm still finishing a show. I'm actually on the air right now. Can I? I love you too. Can I call you back like in 10 minutes? And it's gonna be very short because I'm doing locals right afterwards. Okay. Yeah. No problem. All right. Love you. Bye bye. Okay. So, she's citing the supremacy clause, which supremacy clause, those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, is a reference to the fact that federal law trumps state law. Mm-hmm. So you cannot create a state law that purports to trump federal law. The federal law. So if in fact, that's why I say, if in fact this was a civil right that says, hey, if you violate the state, if this was a state law which says, if you violate the federal law, we're going to punish you, or we're going to create a cause of action against you because you, sorry, if you comply with federal law, we're going to punish you for complying with federal law. So that clearly would be a violation of the supremacy clause, because now they're trying to get their citizens to ignore federal law. So
I think it's further than that. I could explain if you want.
Go for it.
There's federal statutes to protect whistleblowers. Reporting a federal crime to the federal government, fraud, other crimes, is whistleblowing.
But the nature of those protection is not necessarily from civil liability.
Sure, it would be.
How so?
You're immune. You're immune from prosecution.
So now you sort of have to think about what are the protections for whistleblowers. And does someone who calls in a tip, are they considered, they qualify for being labeled a whistleblower? You're assuming that this person automatically is labeled a whistleblower when they call in a tip to ICE about someone being there. But I don't know that they necessarily qualify for that. There could be certain steps, like in order to be a whistleblower, you have to be take certain steps in order to be there, and that calling a tip to ICE doesn't end up fulfilling those steps. So you're assuming that those protections of being a whistleblower would attach. And you could be correct. I'm just saying I'm not sure that you are. So let's for a moment posit the notion that you're not protected by whistleblower statutes. So in that case, what I was starting to say here was that if a state would pass a law saying it's illegal to follow federal law, that law would be unconstitutional because of the supremacy clause. A state cannot say that we're making it illegal to pay your federal taxes. We hate Trump so much, we don't want you paying federal taxes because he's using it to spend money on the military, on ICE, and we don't like the way he's spending his money. So we're going to make it a crime for you to file your federal taxes. Such a law would be unconstitutional. That cannot work because you are legally obligated to file and pay your federal taxes. So they cannot pass a law like that. So if they were to pass a law, if there was a federal law that says you must report anyone you have, that's your duty. And now a state law said that if you follow that law, we're going to have you now be exposed to additional liability. That would run afoul of the supremacy clause. But I don't know if there is such a statute under federal law, which is why I think it's actually very possible that this could be a valid state law. It's disgusting and awful and evil and corrupt and twisted and sickening as to how protective they are of illegal immigrants that they're trying to now create a cause of action.
What about misprison of a felony?
What the hell is that?
It's a legal term that refers to failure to report knowledge of a felony to authorities, which can be considered a crime, particularly under U.S. federal law.
I've never heard of misprison of a felony.
Yeah, it's right here, 18 U.S.C. 4, misprison of a felony.
18 U.S.C. 4. Okay. This is exactly what we're looking for here as to how it could be a supremacy. Misprison of felony is making it illegal for someone with knowledge of a U.S. federal felony to conceal it and fail to report it to authorities. But is being a legal alien a federal felony? No.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying. Could be.
I don't think that's going to help you. What Jim is trying to look for here is how it is that we could see that this is a violation of federal law to not report it. I understand that, but I don't think that would end up applying here. And all I'm trying to say is, while this law is clearly evil and being promoted by very evil, twisted, disgusting, awful, terrible human beings who should all, basically fall off the ends of the earth. We should have an end of the earth just so that we should make and create an end of the earth just so there would be a place for them to properly fall off of and disappear from the universe forever. That doesn't mean that it's not legally viable or option that they could create. And what I'm saying is, I think it actually could work. So that now, if someone from Colorado, assuming this bill were to become law, it's not the law in Colorado yet, but it is a bill that's being proposed. If it becomes law in Colorado, I do think that it's very possible that if someone were to get hurt in Colorado, that they could then turn around and sue the individual who tipped them off to ICE. Now, they would need to figure out who that is, and the federal government can create a new policy saying that we are not going to share that information with anybody in order to help insulate people from that. The objective of the law would be to chill. It's about chilling speech. It would be to chill and intimidate folks so that they'll be scared that, hey, if I make this phone call and something goes wrong in this ICE pickup, I could be held personally liable. It's designed to chill. But the federal government can take steps to say that we're not going to do that. And they could even Trump could take even one more step, saying that we'll recompense you for any of your damages in such an event. That if in fact you are held liable, we'll recompense you. And that's the way that they could offset it.
If I remember correctly, I think Colorado already had a law maybe last year, and they already sued some sheriffs or some police for sharing information with ICE. Like, someone pulled someone over, found out it was a legal alien, made a call to ICE and told them, and so then they went after. I'm pretty sure that's already happened.
All right.
But I think the reason that's legal is because the cop found out during his duties, and there's a state law officer, and so he found out because of his official duties, so that's why he's not allowed to share that information because that's a state law. I don't know something.
But the point that I'm making is, while this law seems really evil, I don't know that it's necessarily unconstitutional. There are ways to subvert it that the federal government can help subvert the impact of this law, but to just have it declared an illegal law, unconstitutional, or a violation of the supremacy clause, I don't know that I don't see where that's going to happen. I don't see where that's going to happen.
I mean, the easiest thing to fix it would be Congress to pass a law saying, anyone who gives information is immune from, any civil liability. And then that would be supremacy.
Good luck.
I'm just saying good luck now, but I mean,
good luck getting that to happen. Getting Congress to pass any sort of beneficial laws. Between San Diego and LA, there's a border patrol stop. I'm not surprised by that. There should be a lot. Punishing you for speech like reporting crime is prior restraint of speech. Well, they're not punishing you. They're just saying if there's something that happens, you can be held liable. So I don't know if that's considered punishing a prior restraint.
Oh, wouldn't that be? Speech. Yeah, actually, though, isn't that though? Because
it's a good
First Amendment protects a lot of things, except for defamation, actual crime, stuff like that. Speech-wise,
I do like the free speech
lawsuit.
I do like the free speech claim. But I need to think on that one. I think that's a very interesting point Hands One Pack made.
I mean, I can see it if you made a call with tip and it was a false tip or it turned out to be not true. They could say it's defamation somehow or slander. I don't know.
Peter, you're getting better at this. You're making a good point that it's designed to be a prior restraint on free speech. I like it. Fans. Good job. I need to think on it more, though. I'll try to come back with a decision on that on Saturday. Whether is that impacting considered prior restraint on free speech? You're creating a new exposure to liability. If I tell you, it is a strange thing to create that sort of liability. If I tell Jim, I really think that you should go out and engage in in illegal activity next year. So could I be held liable for that? Could someone issue a prior restraint on that? I don't think you can issue a prior restraint on that. But if the penalties are that I would, let's say, now have some sort of punitive punishment, I think you're making a really. The more I'm thinking about your point here, Allegan News, who on Rumble goes by Hands One Pack, and the more I'm really liking that claim. Not bad. I do want to think more on it. All right. The next one I want to talk about is a bill in my home state of New Jersey. And
there's a video.
Yeah, I got it. I see that you shared with me. Thank you. This one is, I think, more of an overt violation of the Supremacy Clause. So it's not a Supremacy Clause thing that Fans is pointing out. He's saying it's a freedom of speech violation. But let's check out this new law that New Jersey lawmakers are passing.
Dana, good morning. And emotions are high here in New Jersey after an ICE raid here at this laundromat and surrounding businesses in Morristown on Sunday led to anti-ICE protests and really controversy here locally. New Jersey Democrat Governor Phil Murphy is now weighing whether or not he's going to sign 3 anti-ICE bills that were passed by the Democrat-controlled state legislature. Now, the bills legally prohibit police from stopping anyone based solely on immigration status, prohibits ICE.
Yeah, I don't think they have the ability to do that. That's a Supremacy Clause problem. That number one, prohibiting state and local police from stopping anyone based solely on immigration status. Yeah, I don't think you can stop federal agents from doing that. It prohibits state and local police. So state and local police cannot stop someone.
That's not what I read in the story.
They can't stop federal agents from doing it, but they can stop state and local police.
I mean, according to the story, I think he's got it wrong. His thing is wrong because according to the story I got from Y, it's that it's prevent anyone from detaining anyone, prevent ICE from detaining anyone for solely on immigration status.
Well, that's a different thing because ICE is obviously federal agents.
Yeah.
I don't know if Breaking 911 has it wrong or if Fox News has it wrong. So I'm not sure.
Jails to deport criminals and prevents New Jersey from sharing personal data with ICE without a warrant. Now, Governor Murphy.
And that we see that they do have a right to say we're not working with federal government.
He has until noon Tuesday when his term ends to sign these bills. And he's Dana, good morning.
That you don't tell us whether he's likely to sign it or not. I'll tell you this a-hole is likely to sign it. Phil Murphy. That's another person we should invent an end of the earth just so we can throw him off of it. Yeah. So to the extent it purports to limit ICE, I would say that this is a Supremacy Clause. To the extent that it's stopping state and local officials from cooperating with ICE, I think that would be legal. It's just awful and evil and ultimately detrimental to New Jerseyans everywhere. Which, yeah. But that would be legal. So Phil Murphy sucks. And frankly, Mickey Sherrill is not any better. And yeah, I hate Phil Murphy. I've hated him for a long time. This guy makes me buy bags when I go shopping. Had crazy policies. What? He does. He makes you spend $2 on those stupid bags because we can't have plastic bags anymore. And they actually harm the environment more than the plastic bags did because there's no way to destroy them. So he's a doofus who actually has made New Jersey a much worse place to live. I don't even want to talk to you about
Why don't they go back to the paper bags?
Even better. Thank you for your input on this matter. You're very invaluable input here, Jim. Thanks
You know what I'm talking about? You remember the old paper bags?
I remember the old paper bags.
Whatever happened to those? They worked great.
They were terrible. Terrible. First of all, they always had the ridges on top that would cut your fingers. Second of all, they had no handle, so they were always falling. If they
had to put your arm under them and carry them like this.
Yeah, if they got a little bit wet, everything fell on through. They were terrible. Terrible. Try using that in
Use them for 50 years. What are you talking about?
Try using that in you live in South Carolina where you don't have no freaking ice storms. You try those things get like remotely wet. You live in like arid
Chicago. That's where I was. Chicago.
Yeah, you
paper bags.
I was actually thinking you actually do have a heavy Midwestern accent. When you were saying something earlier, I was like, I was gonna say, oh yeah. But
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Use the bags.
No. You had to double bag them. They weren't strong enough to hold on to, like, if you put 4 2-liter bottles in there, the things would come crashing through the bottom. It's like, no, only use 3. I used to have to double bag those things. Nightmares of those brown paper bags. No. So, but he got rid of our plastic bags and replaced them with something you have to pay $1.25 for. I think it's probably $1.50 now. And they basically never decompose because he's a doofus. His COVID restrictions were just insane. And he killed thousands of elderly by basically pulling them out of hospitals and shoving them into nursing homes. There was so many, his policies led to a scandal where they found 10 bodies in a nursing home during COVID. You know that? That were
10 bodies.
They couldn't bury them fast enough. That's what Phil Murphy, because in nursing homes they always have like a funeral place, like they have a place to like their own private morgue because they recognize they're gonna have to deal with people dropping dead. So they always have a private morgue, but those private morgues are meant to hold 1 or 2 people. And when they're already filled, and you have 10 more people dropping dead on you before you can move them out of the morgue. So the corpses were literally piling up in these nursing homes. That's how bad it was here in Jersey. Thanks to that jackass a-hole agent of death, Phil Murphy. Like I can't drop dead soon enough. Anyhow, I think that's what I got for you. I need to get over. I'm supposed to be doing a show. You all heard I'm supposed to call Lady Logic. So I'm gonna be doing that, but I'm starting up that stream in the next 3 minutes or so. Why don't you tell people about yourself, brother, so you can.
My name's Jim, and you come to my channel, and I'll tell you the news.
On Jim Tells You. You want to give me a link that I can put in the description here real fast, so I can have it in here?
Surely.
So I can, actually do that. Yeah. And that stream is set up. You can find the link there if you are a member or a subscriber. I urge you all, check it out and, do that good stuff, because the takes I'm about to give you on this movie are takes you're not going to find anywhere else. You can be a member of the following. You could be a locals member. I don't know how to set it up for subscribers in the ghetto. I'm sorry. I don't know how to do that.
You have to. The only way to do it is you have to use Rumble Studio.
Yeah, I don't use that. I'm not proficient in that. But anyway, so I'm going to urge you all to make sure you check out Jim Tells You. I will also say we did hit our goal tonight. I know it might not look like that on YouTube. We did hit our goal, which means I have now agreed that I will be streaming, God willing, on Saturday nights. So instead of me being gone for the next 4 days or so, that thanks to the good people here in our chat, which there were too many to even mention because there was just one $10 after another. So I am going to be streaming, God willing, on Saturday night. So now, and if you head over to locals or to the member chat, you will find me there. And the link is pinned in the chat. It's also in the description. The link is to the locals. But there's also a member show that I'm going to go live in the next 5 minutes or so. Until then, I'm going to remind you all to please make sure that you stay away from lab meat because it's not meant for you. It's meant for they, them. It's not meant for you. And do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Good night, everyone. And as always, my friends, Godspeed.